teenagers from purchasing violent video games, especially violent video games that advocate bullying, violence against women, violence of any sorts, and games that just lead us to believe that violence is the way to resolve any conflict. During my speech, I will first discuss why the problem with teenagers purchasing video games. Second and lastly, I will offer and provide ways in which we can create policies to restrict these teenagers from buying violent video games. Unfortunately, in today's world, violence in video games has been overlooked so much that it's not really being pushed around to really restrict these teenagers from buying the violent video games. Violent video games promotes violence, and not only that, it imitates violent actions. Aggressive video games should be prohibited because they tend to promote violence among our youth, and they promote aggressive behavior. According to Pamela Otter Medical Foundation, teenagers that plays aggressive video games, they tend to engage in fights with their peers. On another note, teenagers that play aggressive video games, they tend to react in more hostile ways than those who don't spend time playing aggressive video games. One big point on why I'm bringing you problems with aggressive video games is because gamers aren't really influenced by the action of aggressive video games. They use the aggressive behavior from the violent video games and portray them in real life situations. For example, the Huntington Post reported an 8-year-old killing and shooting an elderly woman, his caregiver, after playing Grand Theft Auto, a game that encouraged violence and rewards people killing other people. Another similar event was the 1999 Columbine shooting of 13 students, in which the 2 suspects was linked to playing violent video games such as Mortal Kombat and Call of Duty. Now that you know the aggressive behavior linked to these aggressive games, I want to offer you ways in which we can prevent these catastrophic events from occurring. One way we can stop this from occurring is striking our policies and creating new laws in which we can restrict these teenagers from purchasing these games. We must require I believe we should require a birth certificate for every purchase to anyone who's under the age to purchase a violent video game. I think we should make the games at which it's hard for them. We should place violent games in the category with with child pornography, because placing games with child pornography makes it hard for teenagers to attain the games. Another thing we could do is I think gaming companies should push for a higher age range for rated M games. Making rated M games for people 20 and older empowers adults and parents, and doing so ensures the availability of hyper-violent video games that they will be left in the discretion of the adults. According to the Federal Trade Commission, 69% of teenagers were able to purchase rated M games. They were able to purchase these games that obtain violence, images that was left offensive to adults. I believe if we put a higher age range in rated M games, we'll be able to knock down that 69% of teenagers that were able to purchase rated M games, which will help allow us to restrict a lot of these teenagers from buying games. I believe, with that being said, I think we should create and be more assertive with these new policies. We should create laws that that empowers the adults and parents rather than allow game vendors and game companies and teenagers power, because I feel like a lot of these game companies and vendors, they have a lot of power in what these kids play. To wrap everything up, we first discussed the problems with teenagers buying violent video games, and how they cause aggressive behavior, and how gamers are influenced and how they portray what they're influenced by. Secondly, lastly, we talked about how we could create and offer new policies and laws in which we can help restrict teenagers from buying these aggressive, violent video games. Um, I think with a large amount of violence going around in the world, I think aggressive video games is the last thing we want our kids to have. With that being said, I'm gonna leave you with this final quote by Margaret J. Wheatley. Aggressive only moves in one direction. It creates more aggression. Thank you all.